When I was a kid, back when I was 14 or 15, and I've told this story many a time on the good old YouTube gargler here, a guy come to town, he had one of these. And it made him the biggest guy in town immediately. Just by driving into town, he was all of a sudden the biggest guy in town. He's actually probably arguably at that time the biggest guy in Idaho. Boy, how that times have changed. But he had one of these, but he didn't have the fancy fan kit on it, and he had it mounted in the back of his little Ford Ranger. It was owned by this guy named Duck Hunter. He's still alive. He's back in Virginia. That same amp is now broken, and I contacted him a few months back and said, "Hey, send me up that amp. I want to go through it for you." And he's like, "Okay, I'll do it." You know, it's not here. I'll say that. So I don't know. I got to reach back out to him. But this one here, I've been through this thing already. This is owned by another gentleman. He got it, and he had some problems with it at his station. And then he figured out after he'd returned it back up here for me to go through it and then get rid of it for him, that it might maybe possibly have been something in his station that was not right. Because it works perfectly here, right? I've gone over it a couple times on video. This box is loaded. And I mean loaded to the extreme. I really took my time with this. If you'll notice, there's something different about this amp that most of the fan-kitted sweet16s don't have going for them. Let's see if you guys can put it together as I'm taking the screws out. I'll give you a minute just to process. So most of the fan kits that are on sweet16s, the Y plugs for the fan kit are on this side of the amp. This plug setup is on that side of the amp. That never made any sense to me. Because here's your coax connectors and you have your fan wires, and it was all... So to physically make this work the way I did it, right, I had to take the whole fan kit apart, undo all these screws, took the whole fan kit apart and rotated it around. Just saying, that's what I did to make it so that it's opposite. This thing's even loaded to the point where the fan kit's on a switch. There's a switch back here in the corner that I have installed right here. And one way the fan is on the internal thermocouple, and then the other way the fan is on 100% of the time. But this box is fully upgraded. It's got the upgraded caps in it, upgraded power wire, upgraded distribution system. It's hand tied. We replaced the delay capacitor here. Repaired the burnt trace that was here, but other than that, this thing is in impeccable condition. It's got 8 brand new HG 16D08s in it. 8 of them. As you can see, the solder works impeccable. The output combiner's never been burned up, ever. This thing runs really good. Before we shot this video, I hooked it up on camera on the phone with the guy that owns it, and we ran it on the air and ran it in the dummy load and all that kind of stuff. This box works perfect. The only reason I'm sharing this video or doing this video and making this video for you guys is this amp got sold. He wants me to sell this thing, and then he wanted me to put the money towards a new 8-pill build, and I am so far behind on new builds right now that I told him what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy him out of the amp. Like I'm going to sell this amp off, and then we're going to pay him directly, and then when I get caught up, then we can have the discussion about me building him something new. This also was back when I was doing the upgrade wires. So the ground comes here to the board, and then there's an individual ground wire that goes from that junction to every single one of the 4 pallets. So pallet 1, pallet 2, pallet 3, pallet 4, right? Then on top of that, then they're tied together with these jumpers here, here, and here. So the electrical system does not want for anything on this amp at all. At all. So let me, while I have the opportunity here, let me pause the camera for a minute. We're going to put the lid back on it now that we've seen the inside of it. We're going to hook it up. We're going to run it real quick. This is more or less just a test and a demonstration video. But I've always had an affection for these long-bodied sweets. That and the quantity of fans. There's been 2 or 3 different generations of this fan kit. The OG one, which was a 120 by 1, which is 120 millimeters by 1 inch. 4-inch fans by 1 inch. The damn metric system. You know, we went to the moon without any metric parts, right? Period. There might have been some parts that were made in some countries that have adopted the metric system. But we went to the moon. We've done some pretty cool stuff without the metric system, right? And now the world's just got me thinking in millimeters. Horrible. Horrible. Let me put the lid on this thing. Let me run it through right here real quick. So I want to cover a couple things. This guy is a first-time sweet16 owner. Okay. If you have the power plugged in, like over here, you never, ever, ever, ever want to unplug your fans. This plug, or the one that's in the back. And so you have it as a reference. This second hole, there's 2 holes. One here, which is the remote, and this one here is the fan. Okay. The remote is simply a stereo jack that's got 2 wires. You take the tip, which is going to be your hot, and the next one's going to be the return, and you touch them together with a switch, and the amp will turn on. So, anyhow, you never, ever, ever want to unplug these. If you do, what will happen is there's an internal fuse. It's like a 15 ampere. It will pop. Whew. Wow, that was a hell of a sneeze. It'll blow the fuse internally. So it's safety protected, just in case, like a kid or this gets caught on something pink and the amp is on. All it needs to be is plugged in. Okay. So if you ever undo these plugs, unplug here. The other thing to note is that this mono Y splitter that was made by Radio Shack tells you how old these are. They have a horrible tendency of breaking inside the plug. So when you get this, these will be unplugged, and that's to protect them. But they are notorious for breaking inside, right here and right down in here. So if you go and turn the amp on one day and the top fans don't turn on, but the bottom ones are running, this Y is busted. Okay. The other thing to keep in mind is the bottom fan kit is not as important. The bottom half of this fan kit is not as important as the top half. The top half, getting air across that heatsink, is utterly more important than blowing cool air across the parts. Okay. You don't want to put more than about 120 watts in this, ever. And that's peak, not bird, peak watts. Okay. A lot of guys will get themselves a 955 striker, like what we're going to use today, and they'll run into this thing. Now I have a hopped up derail striker, so not all 955s out of the box will do what my striker does. Most of them out of the box will do about 90 watts. Period. Keep your drive, your dead key around 1 watt, 2 watts, maybe 3 watts at the most. Let the rest of it be swing. This amp will last you until your children are trying to figure out what to do with it. You go outside of those parameters, you can. I'm not going to make any guarantees, right? We all have that friend. And you all know what I'm talking about. The friend that says, oh, well, I've got a friend that does this, that, and he gets this much out of his box. Ignore that guy. Just simply go, okay, cool, right? Listen to what I'm telling you, and the amp will last you forever. run it like your buddy, and oh man, if you turn the voltage way up and you drive it way hard, you can get like 2,000, 2,300 out of it. Not out of this. Not out of this design. This is a mainstay of Americana and radio, and it'll last you forever. Expect to get about 17 out of it. If you've got a 90 watt striker, you're probably going to get 12 to 13 out of it, and it'll run like that for eternity. Okay. Over here, as always, we have the 1,000 watt slug and peak, 1,000 in bird and average, and then the 5 watt slug and reverse from the bird 10,000 watt dummy load. So first let me show you drive. Hello, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. About 125, 130 watts, somewhere in there. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Now we're gonna go look at pass through. Hello, 1, 1. What I'm showing you here is the RF's ability to come from the radio, go through the watt meter, down through the amplifier, through all the meters, and then to the dummy load. So this is showing us, when we key down with the amplifier off, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, that we're able to talk through the box with absolutely no resistance and no problems. Okay? The reason that that's important is a lot of people get confused and they think that that shows them their antenna SWR. The only time you can see the antenna is when the amplifier is off. Now we turn the amplifier on. Hello, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, hello, 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 hello. You're gonna see a couple bars. That's okay. You can totally ignore it until it gets to 1.5. Then after that, then we need to think about having a conversation. Okay, so like I said, 1,000 watts in peak, 1,000 bird, 5 watt slug in reverse. Hello, 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 come in. A 450 bird, that's about all you'll ever get out of it with this particular setup, and we're burying that 1,000 watt element completely in the corner. So, let us put it in the 2x position. Those of you guys that have never watched one of my YouTube videos before, when the needle goes all the way to the corner with the multiplier in, that's 2,000 watts. So how do we read it? Because there's not a specific scale. Right here in the middle, the 50 mark, so between the 40 and the 60, right there on the 50, is 1,000 watts. So then 12, 14, 16, 18, and 2,000. All right? I just got caught up in my soldering iron leads. Sorry about kicking the camera, y'all. Okay, so, hello, 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 about 1650. And that's on 15 volts flat. Hello, hello, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Keys up every single time. Every single time. So that's that. Thing works just the way it should. Oh yeah, here. Let's turn this back on, turn this back on. And now we'll go to sideband. I've been getting this question a lot lately, and I don't know why, but I've had probably 10 people in the last month say, hey, why doesn't my amplifier key when I'm on sideband? So the main difference between AM and sideband, well, there's a couple huge differences, but the primary one, the main one, is there is no signal for the amplifier to do anything with until you modulate, right? And to help counteract the brutalness on the relay, we have this second switch that says SSB. When you go to sideband, you have to turn on that switch. What it does is it puts a little bit of an electrolytic capacitor in line with the relay. So when you modulate, a little bit of signal will go into the amplifier. The amplifier will see it, it'll activate the relay, but then when you stop talking, instead of the relay immediately opening, it'll stay latched for just a little bit longer. So it'll hold the relay closed in between the pulses of your words. And it's a trick. It's kind of a catch-22, right? So you'll start to talk, the relay will close, it'll stay latched while you're talking, but then when you unkey, you'll have like a quarter second where you won't have any receive because the relay is closed. But hello, 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 audio. That's on sideband, yo. Hello, 1 1 1 1 1 1 1. Hello. Wow. You see the amp draw? Hello, 1 1 1 1 1. Remember, this is an RMS reading meter. It's not a peak. So if you ever choose to run this from your house, you're going to need a 200 amp power supply. Not 125. You're going to need a 200. Believe me when I tell you, you're going to need a 200. Okay, well, that's it. I'm going to box this thing up, brother. I'm going to send this out to you. I have one more just like this that's here on consignment with one of my friends. We got to put 8 Neutro HGs in it, which I'll probably end up doing here in the next day or so. And it'll be up for sale also. And it looks exactly like this one, but the internal modifications are a little bit different. So make sure to look for that video. Gentlemen, big shout out to my Patreon supporters. I cannot stress this enough. I work on a one-to-one basis. Like, I produce the content and then I leave it up to you guys on how you want to choose to support me if you want to. Support can be just as simple as leaving me a like or giving me a thank you comment, or maybe if you want to, if you really are interested, come check us out on Patreon. That's right here, BBI Amps on patreon.com. It costs $1. Every little penny helps, you know. It's what keeps the lights on around here and allows me to go do the interview trips, helps pay for all the camera equipment, because YouTube doesn't pay anything anymore. They don't. They just keep increasing their ads, not paying, and they always find some reason to pay us, the content creators, less. Meanwhile, making us jump through more hoops. So, all right, on that note, I'm going to say thank you to every single one of you. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for giving me, you know, the time of your life to watch what I'm doing over here. I try to make it entertaining. Shout out to Penna, XS, Siglant, MechMan, Bird, and Coaxial Dynamics. And I say this at every video now. If you choose that you're going to buy tubes from Penna, make sure to mention BBI on checkout, and they'll give you 5% discount, or call them and they'll give you a 5% discount that way too. Gentlemen, I appreciate you. I'll see you. Click.